Not able to be a partner in the film, and so it was very much in a state of stasis, and that continued after Guillermo left. It continued for another 3, 4 or 5 months. But you know, I just felt that if this film was ultimately going to happen, or these movies were ultimately going to happen, that I had a responsibility as one of the producers to step in and to make sure that it went a lot smoother than it had started. And as I got into it, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, that's been the biggest surprise for me, quite honestly, is the fact that the idea that I was doing it out of a sense of duty, if you like, that evaporated almost the day that I walked onto set. And I've had a fantastic time. I've had a ball.
How much has technology changed in these intervening years that has made your job easier?
Well, my job isn't really, technology isn't my job. I mean, my job's to work with the script and to figure out the best way to shoot the movie and to work with the actors, and between us all, we interpret what's on the page and figure out, it's really my job is much more in terms of just capturing the feeling and the essence of the scene. I mean, I can, order up a lens and stick it on the camera and shoot it, but it's not really a job where technology is that important. I mean, certainly visual effects technology is advanced, but that's just a tool. It's a tool that you use.
I have Peter. I mean, first for Peter and then for everyone else. Peter, what is different? I mean, not only technology-wise, that you just addressed it, but story-wise, what your feelings? How did it change from the trilogy to The Hobbit? The story is more personal, is less personal. What did it change on your take this time around of the same world?
Well, I mean, taking what Tolkien did, he wrote a children's book and published it in 1936, and then 16 or 17 years later, he published a sequel which was much more of an epic, serious kind of volume. And so the two books, Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, have very different tones. And so really, I went into it with the feeling that whatever we ended up doing, I wanted to make a series of movies that you could watch back to back, and they would have a consistency to them. So I didn't want the Hobbit to be totally skewed to a younger audience. And one of the advantages we had is we had access to the appendices of The Return of the King. Now there's 125 pages of material that Tolkien developed as a way of expanding The Hobbit. It's particularly associated to The Hobbit, but it's published in the back of Return of the King. And so that material was in a way darker in tone, more serious, much more in line with The Lord of the Rings itself. And so by blending the two, by taking the charm and the humour of the characters in The Hobbit, and blending it with some of the backstory that exists in the appendices and expanding it, I think the balance is there. It's a balance between the two.
For everyone else, I mean, starting with Richard and Martin, it's your first time with Peter, so could you tell us a little bit, Richard, Martin, how was the experience with Peter? Because obviously you have heard and you have seen the movie, so was it up to your expectations? And for the ones who came back, how was this time around working with Peter compared with Richard?
Yeah, I mean, you realise when you watch the trilogy that there's no chance that you're going to be made to look foolish, or that there isn't going to be an amazing piece of work created out of what we've got here. But actually, on a day-to-day basis, you still feel the same pressures that any actor feels or any filmmaker feels. That you're piecing it together so slowly that your perspective of the entire thing kind of diminishes, and it has to be like that. But then the idea of the only thing I've ever felt for these guys is trust, because you just talk to Pete on one day and I know he's got the entire film in his head and my character, and I can barely hold on to my character. So having that trust has been amazing.
Yeah, similarly with me, I mean, trust is a huge thing in any job that you get into. It's a huge part of a relationship between an actor and a director, particularly. And I trust that he's got form. He's done this quite well before, and I mean that's a huge part of it. I've enjoyed it, and there's a bit more to go. So I'm enjoying it.
Do you feel responsibility to go inside this world that people love it and around the world and want several Oscars and all of this?
The Oscars don't ever occur to me, and it's not. And ultimately, I'm not directing the film, so no, that responsibility, my responsibility, kind of begins and ends with my job, you know, and that's partly what I'm talking about with the trust thing. I trust people who are actually directing and editing, and, you know, composing, and all the stuff that kind of gives the film its overall shape and colour. You know, we're all individual spokes in the wheel. You know, I mean, I have a responsibility to do my job as well as I can, but for the wider film, that's, you know, fortunately I'm not directing it.
Question down here? Yes, thank you. I do apologize, I was late, this was asked before, but I did want to ask, there was a reaction to the footage that was shown at CinemaCon, not here, and it was a little bit of a shock probably to you, and all of us, I think, are such huge fans and admirers of the body of work that you've done. What was your, so again, I apologize if this was asked before, what was your response to that, and was it a shock to you?
Well, I mean, I wasn't at CinemaCon. The shock seemed to be people's opinions about 48 frames a second, not the actual footage, and that's really one of the reasons why I didn't want to screen this at 48 frames a second, because I wanted people to focus on the movie and the footage. I mean, look, 48 frames a second I think is terrific. I think it's going to change the way films are made. I mean, you heard it here first. I mean, no one else has seen 48 frames a second really in a feature-length film other than me. I mean, really, you know, on this desk, I think it's absolutely a terrific advancement in giving people an experience in the cinema that's immersive and feels real and is something that they can't get off their iPads or their TVs at home. So I think it's very important. I think it's very important we use the technology as filmmakers to get people back into the cinemas. You know, we're living in an age where kids, especially teenagers, are not going to the movies, not like, you know, we did when we were young. So all those things, but you can't, you know, I didn't want people to sit there watching 10 minutes of film, you know, as they did at CinemaCon, and all they write about is whether they like 48 frames a second or not. You don't actually know whether you like it, to be quite honest, until you sit down and you watch, you know, a 2-hour long film. That's how it should be judged, and it shouldn't be judged in a convention hall, you know, in an environment that's not a cinema. So in December, people, if they're interested in 48 frames, they're going to have the choice. There's going to be plenty of cinemas screening both 24 and 48, and if you're interested, you should go and check it out in a proper environment on a big screen, and I think everyone will be they're going to find it a very, very interesting, different experience. But like anything, it's something that you've got to get used to. I mean, you know, TVs changed from the wonderful NTSC, you know, was it 400 lines on the screen up to HD, and that's just another step where the resolution, the sharpness, everything improves. So, I personally believe in using technology to improve cinema, not to think that that we peaked in 1930s and we shouldn't move on from there. I don't.
Follow on. Chris Nolan is somebody who says that he thinks that technology, particularly using digital, is an excuse in some ways to save money. He just said this recently at a producers conference, instead of improving the experience for the viewer. Do you disagree with that? Since you're...
I don't know about saving money. I don't think shooting digital is any cheaper than 35.
Lisa Stone?
I wanted to ask Ian what it was like to put on Gandalf's, embodiment again, and how that was for you. Was it like an old friend, or was it sort of something new this time around? And
well,
also
in the intervening 13 years, I've met a lot of people who know Gandalf and seem to know him at least as well as I do. So I have not been out of touch with the idea of Gandalf. There was part of me that didn't want to go back and do him again. I felt as an actor, well, that's a job, a character I've discovered, and perhaps there's not too much more. But I'm terribly, terribly glad that I did come back. If it was only to stop Dumbledore taking over. But Peter and I... Can I go on? Peter and I always preferred Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. He seemed to be a richer more approachable character, and so he proves to be in The Hobbit again. But it's very moving to me coming here and bumping into as many of these fans as we can. Fans sound as if somehow they're odd people, that they're freaky, that they're fanatics. Well, they are, but so are we. These movies are being made by the biggest fan of Tolkien that exists, and the biggest fan of cinema. What's odd about us coming to mix with audiences who feel the same thing? And you heard the reaction, perhaps you didn't, but I think it's been a very successful Comic-Con from The Hobbit's point of view. The fans are there, they cannot wait, and that's 48 frames per second. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I was also wondering if Andy could answer the same question about Gollum.
About revisiting Gollum?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, the same as Ian, you know, he's never really been that far away. One is constantly reminded on a daily basis that these characters, Gandalf, you know, Gollum, have been kind of drawn, sucked up into the public consciousness, and they're you know, daily confronted with people who you know, want to talk about Gollum, or you know, so he has never really been that far away. What was kind of bizarre, I suppose, for a minute, and actually getting back into it and engaging with him physically, and you know, was that for the first day or so, it felt like I was doing this incredible impersonation of about 1,000 million other people's impersonations of what I've done, you know, originally, and that was a weird sensation, because again, it wasn't something that I've never encountered that experience.
Have you come across anybody who does Gollum's voice better than you?
On a daily basis. I'll give you the gig, you know, take it away. But it was, I mean, what was great about this was bouncing off and having the chance to work with Martin, and which I cherished and loved, and again to work with Pete and that environment where, because of the nature of the scene, is you know, very much like a chamber piece. You know, it's a long scene, but the way we went about it was to shoot it like a piece of theatre, and most of the time we would shoot the scene from beginning to end, which is, you know, from different angles. But and it gave, you know, Martin and I multiple chances to, you know, Pete to direct us in different ways, and the writing to evolve. But it gave us a real chance to explore the levels and you know, really find the heart of that scene and dramatically what it meant, and that was a fantastic experience.
Hi, I'm Suzanne from Geek Magazine, Germany. This is a question for Philippa and Peter. I was wondering, you spent so much time with these characters and making the movies. Are you fearing the day when it's all going to be over? Or are you just going to be, is that going to be a big relief for you? Maybe Andy as well.
Are we fearing the day?
Yeah, maybe.
Are we fearing it? No, I don't. No, because they do stay with you, actually. It felt quite easy, surprisingly easy to fall back into that world. And then just one day I was sitting working with Fran and I said, I can't believe I'm typing the word wizard, hobbit. I can't believe we're doing this. But it felt right. And we do dearly love these characters and dearly love the actors who play them, because they help us as filmmakers create the heart of the story. Fran has always said no one cares more about the character than the actor who plays them. And whether that's a villain or a strange creature or a wizard or a hobbit, you know, that's absolutely true. And so it's been a privilege seeing this cast come together and seeing, you know, just when we first saw Richard step up as Thorin and open his mouth and start speaking, you've just been, oh yes, this is great, this is right.